When you think of some of the best indie games of all time, a few may come up. A few that made you feel excited, tense, maybe even scared. Games like Undertale and Five Nights at Freddy's will be names that last forever. But there's another game on this list. Subnautica. A truly astonishing experience, an immersive underwater hellscape with an oddly charming and beautiful atmosphere. A game that truly makes you feel happy. You did it. You escaped the planet. You saved it. But unlike Undertale with its spin-off Deltarune and FNAF with its endless sequels, Subnautica did create a sequel, but without the same immersion as the original. Below Zero wasn't a bad game, it just never felt like the original, and I want to talk about why. Subnautica was a beautiful game. It was excellently designed, and as much as I hated the creatures, they looked amazing. Some of them were huge and really just scared me. Subnautica was one of those games where you could just make a compilation of your favourite streamers just screaming at these creatures in horror.
Oh my god, the calm, it's such a good soundtrack. I have the figure. The worst part is I used to main the spy, and then pyro, and then engineer. But I do play a lot of soldier as well.
I'm dead.
I used to like playing spy on the Xbox version because I played that with some different friends, and for some reason it was way easier to be a spy on the Xbox than it was on PC. Oh jeez.
Bigger hitbox.
But Below Zero never really had this love. Yeah, the design looked great. In fact, I think some of the creatures look better than the original, but it just didn't feel right. The original had some of the most amazing and terrifying ambience. It had astonishing voice acting and comedy in the music. I don't even need to say anything, just listen. I can sit here and talk all day about why Exosuit and Abandoned Ship are some of the best tracks in gaming history. So what does Below Zero have to do with all this? Well, it's also good, but not as good as the original. It just doesn't feel the same. Subnautica had truly unique gameplay. There wasn't really many underwater games that didn't suck. The survival aspect felt amazing. It felt like you were really surviving. The feeling of making a vehicle out of nothing, and in those moments where you have just enough oxygen to get out alive, and it just in the nick of time, it just really feels like you survived that experience. The gameplay just felt nice. The mix of highly tense, fearful moments with those calm and beautiful experiences is truly amazing. It's a love-hate relationship with everything, and I just love it. So what about Below Zero? Well, it's the same. The gameplay feels fine, but those moments of fear, love, and survival just aren't there. It again feels wrong. The story of the original was truly amazing. Like, I had an anonymous person say playing Subnautica for the story was like watching porn for the plot. And yes, I do both. But fuck that person, man. This game is brilliant when it comes to story. I hate, and I mean hate, reading databanks and little logs in games. But Subnautica is the only one where I really do care about reading these data logs. There is a desperation in Subnautica, a true gut-wrenching feeling that you are alone. You go into every life pod, and no one is there. Everyone is dead. The story about the architects is also amazing. You find out everything you need to, why your ship crashed, how to get off the planet, and how to stop the gun without even having to talk to a precursor. They leave just enough mystery in the story to make you curious. Then once everything's in place, you build a rocket. I don't even need a spoiler warning for the ending of Subnautica. You and I both know you escaped the planet. It's the design, it's literally the game. So when you do finally build the rocket and leave, it feels serene. It makes you realise that a game isn't defined as good by its endings. It's the experience along the way that makes the ending good. To someone who hasn't played Subnautica, the ending would just kind of be there. It wouldn't be some great experience. You haven't worked for that ending, so why would it feel good? But it just is. In the description of this video, there's going to be a link to an unlisted video that contains my favourite moments from playing Subnautica. And right at the end, I am just screaming at joy at that ending. I don't even care about the ending. I've seen it enough times. It's just that feeling that everything you've done is successful. Through every problem and mishap, it's all come together and you have done it. It's all over and you have made it out alive. So after all that, you'd think Subnautica Below Zero would top it all. But no. Below Zero doesn't feel right. And I feel disappointed at the fact that Below Zero ruins the game through its story and atmosphere. I want to go back to the person I mentioned. Playing Subnautica for story is like watching porn for plot. So I want to break down that statement. I'm going to twist their words to summarise Below Zero in my opinion. Playing Below Zero with the story is like removing the porn from the video. The story of Below Zero ultimately kills the feeling of Subnautica. Am I being extreme? Yes. Am I coping? Yes. But at 6 PM GMT, 31st of January 2019, I bought Subnautica Below Zero and I loved it. I watched every streamer and YouTuber play it, and they loved it. So what went wrong? Let me tell you a story. Not the current story of Below Zero, but a long lost story.
We are different, but we go together.
You are a researcher for Deltarune, stationed on planet 4546b. You go to a research and architect base, currently locked and needing a white tablet, before your sister informs you of a meteor shower. You rush back to base and it gets destroyed by an avalanche. Your sister deploys a life pod in the wall and you're back to your roots. Survival. Over the course of the game, she gives you jobs and a few things to do, which really actually kind of give you things to do in the game, which were kind of like the life pods in the original Subnautica. You really do bond with her in this moment. And on the way, you find Alan, an architect who gets locked in your head with no escape. Eventually, your sister notices your strange behaviour with Alan, and you have to send up a sample of your body. So you do that, and you're left hoping that Deltarune doesn't discover Alan. You truly bond with your sister and Alan, and then you find out some upsetting news. Your sister's been infected with Kara, so you have to send up the cure. You get some enzyme 42, you put it in the rocket, and then just before the rocket launches, an amazing green shield appears over the planet. A rogue Deltarune employee has turned on the planetary shield and infected the crew of the space station. And then, the story ends! That's it! The devs rewrote the whole story. But at that point, you're left with the Subnautica feeling. A motivation to stop that employee and save your sister. A true motivation that resonates with the Subnautica feeling. After that point, the game could have done so much more with it. Maybe you build Alan's body and he helps you teleport to the planetary shield. Maybe in the void and he helps you capture the rogue employee. And then you send the cure up to your sister. Or maybe your sister's dead. It could have been a super sad experience. Maybe for the final comms with you, you learn some sad moments and really bond with her up until she dies. And then Alan hacks your PDA to get the Neptune rocket and you escape. But it's a sad experience, but with the same feeling as the original game. And that's entirely theoretical. An experience that's long gone. Forgotten. An ending we will never get. Instead, we're given a story that doesn't even have survival. You get yourself trapped on that planet, and it doesn't direct you at all on what to do, other than just to figure out how your sister died. There is no motivation to escape the planet, no motivation to even find out what happened to your sister, there's absolutely no bond with her, and no motivation to even help Alan, as you don't develop nearly enough of a bond to actually care about him. And even when you push through and find out what happened to Sam, you feel no remorse, as you never cared anyway, and you're never going to guess how she died. By being a moron! She's a moron! With no proof. She thought Deltarune was using Kara to make bioweapons, and she tried to block off the cave like, blow it up. With no proof! She died of her own idiocy and gets you stuck on planet 4546b. As a result of it, and after all of that, you built Alan's body, which is just a grind. You get the ending, which really is actually kind of good. Really, really, really good ending. But you don't feel like you've survived to get that ending, and it doesn't have that feeling. And that is why Subnautica Below Zero is fundamentally flawed. It's very much replicating Subnautica, but unable to achieve that because of the story. There is no feeling of achievement in Below Zero, and it's an underwhelming experience that does not generate the same feeling as the original. So what's next? Really, what's next? Well, Subnautica 3 is pretty much already confirmed, and there will most likely be a Subnautica 3. So what do the devs have to do to make it good? Well, first of all, they have to know it's a sequel. One of the problems with Below Zero was how it's first announced as an expansion, not a sequel. This meant having a smaller scope for a game, like a smaller map and less Leviathans was fine, but then twisting it and saying it was a sequel just isn't going to work. A sequel should be better than the original and should have a larger scope than the original. This is why Call of Duty games and FNAF are suffering this, because it's becoming difficult to top what they've already done. So Subnautica 3 must also stick to the story. There is room for adjustments, but rewriting the story halfway through isn't going to work. The game's biomes and areas are built around and with the story. You cannot build a story around the map because it will become significantly more difficult to write a compelling story without plot holes. Finally, Subnautica 3 has to have more than both the original and Below Zero. Unfortunately, Unreal Worlds have put themselves in a position where they have to top the original and it cannot lack content. Luckily, they do have a vibrant fanbase constantly pumping ideas with stories, Leviathans, and new items and vehicles. It's been hard to find new content, but it will be difficult to implement it. Things like optional multiplayer, more difficult hardcore modes and other stuff needs to be put on the suggestion of things, but whatever it is, I'll be excited. I'll definitely play Subnautica 3 and I will try my best to play it. And I hope you guys are too. Thanks for watching.